Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 124 of the Industry Angel. We're now in the month of May. Where are these months going? The weather's great here, and what that means is that now I've launched my new project, Carpway, which is a private leadership group. We're going to start to take business leaders out into the countryside in a private group, and we're going to blow away those corporate cobwebs with coaching, support, mindfulness, well-being, guest speakers, and we'll look forward to kicking it off in June. You can check out carpway.com if you're interested in attending. So you might have noticed on social media that we've been having fun with our custom designed Industry Angel socks. I've been sending them around the world to listeners, and I hope you've enjoyed receiving them if you've been one of the lucky ones. Thanks to Laura Middleton. She did a great unpacking video on posted that on LinkedIn. Lauren Charlton shared hers on Twitter. Natalie James shared her sock pictures on LinkedIn as well. So I've been having great fun watching you all share them. This week's volunteering's been fun as well. And one notable event was the world record attempt firewalk in Newcastle. Can you remember the organiser, Danny Mitchell? We had him on episode 122. He put on a marvellous show. He really needs a big pat on the back because he's provided a huge platform for so many people, to firewalk, raise money and awareness for their respective charities. It broke the record for the UK's biggest charity firewalk. So next year, I'm sure it'll keep growing and come back even bigger. So that's another one under the belt, another volunteering session. I've now done a firewalk. What's next? Okay then, let's hear from today's guest. Today we have one of the co-founders of Flipdish, one of Europe's fastest growing startups who provide online ordering solutions for over 1,000 takeaways across the UK, Ireland and Europe. Flipdish have raised over 7 million euros from leading venture capital firms. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Conor McCarthy.
Thanks, Ian. Excited to be here.
Good man. Thanks for joining us. Whereabouts are you speaking to us from, Conor?
I am sitting in our office in Dublin, in Ireland.
Dublin, you know what they say about Dublin, don't you, being the biggest city in the world?
I think I heard Ali G mention it, yeah.
It keeps on Dublin. I didn't know you were in Dublin, actually. Were you born there?
I was actually born in London to Irish parents back in the early 80s. Then my family moved back to Ireland when I was 10 years old with my brother and sister. So I've been here for a little while now.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, you sent us a great picture of you guys in the office. I guess that's your team. So there's a big bunch of you. So was it 2015 you founded the company?
January 2015 we started it. That photo we sent over was taken 5 or 6 months ago, and we've probably doubled the team since then. So things are changing very quickly. Beginning of 2015 we started the company. I'll bring you through the story of Flipdish. So when we started Flipdish back in 2015, we started doing something quite different to what we're doing now. So Flipdish was initially born out of my frustration, really, trying to place a takeaway order one Friday evening. I was sitting at home on my phone and trying to order some food before I went out. And it was incredibly difficult. I was using one of the leading portals at the time, and they were like £1 billion company, killing it. But placing an order on their mobile phone was so painful. I needed to type in my address on my mobile phone. I needed to enter my credit card details to place the order, even though I'd done the exact same thing last week because they weren't stored. I needed to type in an email address and reset my password because I didn't remember my password. And it was just a painful experience. And that was really contrasted because later that evening I ordered a taxi with Halo, and it was like 2 taps, and then that was it. It was just such a stark contrast between the two experiences. So I decided that things hadn't really improved on ordering in the last few years. So I started designing an app that I thought I would want to use, something that would just make it incredibly easy to place an order online. And after thinking about what would I want, I realized I didn't want to type in my address because I have a mobile phone that knows exactly where I am. I realized if I'm ordering from a chain, I don't want to work out which delivery zone I'm in from all the different stores that are nearby, because often there's like 1-2 miles to the left, 1-2 miles to the right, and you have to work out, am I in the middle? And then you place the order with one and you get a phone call saying, oh no, you should have ordered from this other one. So I didn't want that, and didn't want to have to remember a password. So I designed that out of the flow and things like that. And after a couple of weeks of thinking about the design, I started thinking, this is really nice. I would actually like to have this app in existence. So I spoke to my brother James and said, convinced him that we should go and do this and build a food aggregator, a portal, which you could order from any of your local takeaways, and it would be just nice and easy and get your takeaway. That was the original idea. So we spent 2015 building that, talking to loads of angel investors, seeing if they could lend us a few euro or invest a few euro so that we could keep going, keep eating. And we, after a lot of meetings, we got a very small amount of money to keep us afloat. We built out the first version of Flipdish, which was a portal, and then we started talking to restaurants to try and sign them up to it. And we went into one takeaway and told them that we'd built this amazing app. It was literally 10 times quicker to register and place an order than the alternatives, and that it was so easy. And they basically gave us their feedback. We went into a second takeaway and told them the same thing, and they gave us pretty much the same feedback. Went into a third, and after that, James and I realized that we probably should rethink our whole strategy. So what they had told us was that they loved that it was nice and easy to use, but they really did not want another portal. They educated us to all of the issues they were having and the industry as a whole were having with these giant food portals, which I didn't realize at the time. So they told us that every time they had a customer walk in the door and they would see the food portal's stickers, and they knew, the restaurateur knew that the customer wanted to order online, but if they sent them to the portal, they felt like there's a good chance they would lose that customer because all of their competitors were listed in the portal. And they said that when they were lucky enough to receive an order from their customer, they would charge extremely high fees for it. So in Ireland, and I think similarly in the UK, the fees have gone up every single year over the last 4 or 5 years. And they're up at like 14% for every single order. And that's on the gross order amount, which is a huge cut of the restaurant's margins. So they were really feeling the squeeze. They were making very little money on all these orders coming through the portals, but they had no alternative. And they basically, what they told us was that they really wanted their own branded website and their own mobile app, which they could send their customers to and allow their customers to order directly. So after we heard the story from pretty much every takeaway we spoke to, we changed tact, and at the beginning of 2016, so a little over 3 years ago, launched our what we do today, our white label online ordering solution for takeaways and restaurants. And our goal is to make it as easy as possible for a takeaway or restaurants to get set up online and receive online orders directly from their customers, and therefore no longer be beholden to the food portals who can just increase the fees as they go and siphon away the restaurant's customers through their portal and then effectively sell them back to the takeaway.
Thanks for that, Conor. So basically what you're saying there, you mentioned it being white label. So just for my mind there, so does the restaurant have its own individual app and the user opens up that app and it's just that restaurant's menu that's on there?
Exactly, yeah, that's it. So we would give a restaurant their own branded website. So you type in Tom's Takeaway, first result in Google will be Tom's Takeaway. The customer clicks on that and they order directly through our platform to the takeaway. And similarly, we would give the restaurants their own mobile app, and then their customers will download that. Typically, the restaurants would have a discount for the first order, which helps the customers order directly from them for the first time. And then we have lots of loyalty systems built in, which will help the customer keep coming back. So the restaurant ends up with having their logo on their customers' phones, which they look at 100 times a day.
Yeah.
And people can just open that, click the logo on their phone and place an order within a few seconds every Friday night.
So, or Saturday and Sunday. So, in terms of in terms of the fees, then, so have you took the fees away? So basically, the restaurant needs to put the upfront fee or the monthly fee, whatever you charge them for this service, but the users, there isn't a fee associated with the food order.
Yeah, so there is still a fee. It's just about half of what the portals charge.
Yeah.
We charge a fee, and we charge transactionally, which means that we charge for each order that comes through.
Yeah.
And we have thought a huge amount about how we should charge for this. And
I bet you have.
Yeah. And we've come to the conclusion, which I think has really helped Flipdish do well and all of our customers do well, in that if we charge per transaction, it means we are directly aligned with the takeaway. Because if we were to sign up a takeaway and they didn't receive orders, then we make no money. And that means that at the moment, I'm sitting in an office, there's 40 people through the glass partition there, and they are all working really hard to make sure our restaurants get a lot of orders, because that is the only way Flipdish will survive. And it means that when we sign up a restaurant, they get a whole load of people here in the background, making sure that their app always works perfectly, that it's really easy to use when there's new iPhones released, and there's been a couple of versions since 2015, that we update the app and make sure it works really well for iPhone 10s and new Android phones and so forth. And I really feel that if we were to charge just a flat monthly fee, that wouldn't happen. I think companies that do that fall into the cycle, which is very similar to gyms, where their ambition is to sign up as many gym members as possible, but have them never go to the gym, because that's how gyms make money. And if we were to just charge a flat monthly fee, the incentive would just be gone to make it work amazingly well for the restaurants.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I would imagine now then, if you brought on Tom's Takeaway or whatever, that they could actually correlate the increase in turnover down to the app. So when you're putting a case study to Bill's Takeaway, I'm sure you can say, well, look what's happened to Tom over the last couple of years with using Flipdish. Is that what happens? It's incredible when you look at the numbers. Like if you were to take a typical takeaway who has a website and no online ordering, and you add online ordering to it, their overall number of orders that they get, not just online but in total, goes up. And it's because people, to an extent, expect that you can go to someone's website now and place an order. So people are going to their websites expecting to be able to place an order. They can't, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'll go somewhere else, or I'll open up my food portal and see what else is around. So yeah, it really does help the takeaways. I mean, people these days, they've grown up with smartphones, and they don't expect to have to phone a takeaway to place an order. They want to just be able to do it on their phone and not talk to anybody. Yeah, no, it's a really good point you make. It's a level of expectation now. You just have to be there, don't you? Interesting enough, what you mentioned there about the iPhone. A friend of mine, he has an app, and some of the things I've gleaned from that is that you might tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but it sounds like an app for the iPhone is easier to do than Android, is it? Because with Android, you've got lots of different phones. Would you say that's the case?
So there are different.
We're going to go off on a technical thing here.
I would say, yeah. With Android, it can be quite challenging because there's effectively an infinite number of screen sizes, resolutions, and shapes, and that makes it. It means you need to design the app in a different way. You need to just design it so it'll kind of effectively stretch and look well on any type of screen size. Where with iPhones, you know exactly there's this, I don't know, but maybe 10 different screen sizes, and you can test on those particular 10 and make sure it looks perfect for those 10. So in terms of the UI, iPhone can be much easier. But there are different hurdles with iPhones. Apple reviews every single app, mostly manually. So there's a review process. And I mean, that's why there's, for the most part, high quality apps in the App Store. But it means it's slow and sometimes difficult to get apps into the App Store. So that's one challenge you don't have on Android. Whereas with Android, you can put anything in there. And if it's a poor app, Google are very good at search, and they will just not show it up in the search results if no one likes it. But you can put it there.
It's actually interesting because your app, for instance, if it was a generic app, you might be interested in getting up the charts so more people download it. But for you, it's Bill's takeaway, isn't it? Do you not need to be up there in the charts and be seen? Is it just because it's it's attached to a restaurant rather than being a generic app?
If someone searches for the restaurant's name on the App Store or in the Play Store, typically the app would show up at the top because there won't be many John's Takeaway in the area, and Apple and Google will take into account where you are in the world. So no, I mean it will appear there.
Yeah, I was trying to sort of compare it to something like, I don't know, like a podcast, for instance. You're on iTunes. Mm-hmm. You go on iTunes, you search for business, and there'll be hundreds of business podcasts in there. And the way Apple works is obviously their algorithms must work on reviews and downloads and how many subscribers there is and that sort of thing. So if you're not getting those, you get kind of pushed down the rankings, and then you don't get found. And then you have other people who can kind of gamify it by buying downloads and buying reviews and stuff. So it's a constant kind of battle, really, as a podcast, but also, I guess, an app developer as well to kind of stay in the charts. But you mustn't have that thing then.
Yeah. So yeah, we wouldn't advise. It wouldn't be usual for a takeaway to kind of expect people to go to the App Store and type in takeaway, and for their takeaway to be their takeaway app to be there, and for them to happen to be in the right delivery zone for that customer. So the more usual experience is the customer types in the name of that particular takeaway. They're not typing in pizza or hamburger into the App Store, but they're typing in John's Takeaway Suffolk or something like that.
Sure. So thinking about the business, you mentioned you were looking through the glass partition there at the team, and you mentioned there was 40. So what does that look like? Is there a lot of developers, marketers? What's the split?
So there are.
You're going to be looking at them now, pointing them all out.
There. In terms of tables, there's 2 tables of developers out there. And there is a table of what we call the factory team, who set up all of the restaurants for our new signups. So typically a takeaway would go to flipdish.com and fill in the form, and then they would talk to one of our sales reps, and the sales rep would get their menu off them, their opening hours, delivery zones, that type of thing. And then the guys in the factory team would enter all that information into our system and have them set up within a couple of days. And then their website is live and they have their mobile apps. So it's factory team. We have one small table for marketing team. We've 2 large tables for customer support and for customer success. And so we've probably an oversized support and success team, because we think it's very important that if a restaurant needs to talk to somebody, they can just call us and a human will pick up the phone and be there for them on the first ring. So we put a lot of effort into the support and also the success team behind that. And then there is a table for the inside sales team, talking to all the new leads that come in.
That's interesting. So it's pretty quick turnaround then from somebody ringing up and saying, I'm interested. Is there an upfront fee? Do they have to sign up for a year then? Because obviously you're putting the risk together of setting everything up.
So their upfront fee is £495, and there's a year contract. We try not. I mean, so that upfront fee just about covers the hardware we give to the store and the flyers we give to the store. So we try and keep the sign-up fee as little as possible, because I mean, we don't want restaurants to fork out a huge amount upfront, especially if they're concerned it's not going to work. Or we'd like to make it easy for the restaurants to get set up online, and then we will only make money from them if it works for them over time. So that's our model.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So thinking about your team, then it was I picked up on something you said about an oversized team and customer service or success is obviously something that you're passionate about. How do you train your teams then, Conor?
So, well, we've only been around, we've only been selling for 3 years and 3 months or so now.
Okay.
And that means that things have changed very quickly. So, in I suppose what has happened is in the first year, we some really smart and driven people joined the company, and they have now moved into managing their teams. So they know Flipdish inside out because they've been here since the beginning, and now they're managing their teams. So we have the guy running the tech team came on as a developer. Guy running the factory team was initially came on as an intern a few years ago and was entering the data for the apps. Now he's running a team of like 15 people. Our success manager came on doing as our first really hire for support and success, and now she runs a team of 8 or 9 people. So what has happened is the people who were with Flipdish in the early days they know Flipdish really well, and they know what our customers need, and they have hired people around them who can, suppose, help scale out.
That's excellent. So in terms of the team then, so they came in, at the outset, 2015, 2016, that sort of thing, and they've grew and grew and grew. I guess as you so it's you and your brother who founded the company. Is it something where you kind of sit and think, how do we incentivize the team to continue the passion that you both have, but sometimes teams don't have as much passion as you. So do you think about how you can incentivize them and kind of lock them into the business?
Yeah, we do. So like we're not Google. There's some things we can't give our staff, but there's some things we can give them that Google can't, and that is we give all of our staff equity. So when Flipdish does well, they individually do well. So I think that is very important. We're all driven together to make it work. We give them freedom and responsibility. So if they want to make a career and they want to be part of a quickly growing startup, which is a rare enough thing in the world. I mean, there are a lot of startups out there, but in the grand scheme of things, there aren't many that go from like 2 people to 2,000 in a couple of years, which is what we're on track to do. And if they want to get on the ground floor of a startup and be part of that, then we can give them that opportunity. And I also think that to an extent, some people are intrinsically motivated. I don't think you can just take an average person and make them motivated.
Okay.
At least I don't know how to. But what we try and do is find people who are intrinsically motivated and give them something that they really enjoy doing and the opportunity to grow and be an integral part of an exciting company.
Well, the exciting thing was you mentioned 2,000, Conor. So what's your plans there then?
In terms of growth of the company?
Yeah, I mean, were you talking headcount there when you're talking about going from 2 to 40 to...
I was talking headcount, so it's not a particular a target I have in mind, but yeah, I mean, we do have a little over 1,000 restaurants and takeaways at the moment, but there are over 700,000 across Europe who, I mean, they all need online ordering. I cannot see a takeaway surviving in the next 10 years without accepting online orders. So, because their customers, they want to order online. The phone calls are drying up, and if these takeaways don't have a direct ordering platform, then their customers are going to order through a portal, and then the restaurant or takeaway is effectively working for that portal and paying them 15, 16, 17% on every order. So we are tiny in the grand scheme of things. We're doing 1/700th of the business we should be doing in Europe. And then if you look further afield in the world, there's another probably million takeaways out there. So yeah, so our goal is to help as many of them as we can.
Fantastic. Yeah. It was interesting you mentioned some of the leading portals, I think you termed it as, and we won't mention them. How was your relationship with them, Conor? You mentioned you were small there. Are you small enough, but are they looking over the fence and these guys are coming for us? Or
I think that the leading portals have a lot of other issues at the moment,
Okay.
other than us, and so maybe we're overlooked. That's fine. I mean, there's recently in the industry, like Deliveroo has come out of nowhere with hundreds of millions invested, and they are causing problems for the previous leader in the portal space, and now Uber. I think the most heavily funded private company in the world is over in Europe, setting up shop in the UK and Ireland and everywhere else doing Uber Eats. So the incumbent portals have bigger issues than us, at least maybe from their point of view, they would probably feel that way. So yeah, maybe we're overlooked, but I mean that's fine.
It totally is. Yeah, you just be stealthily coming around the corner. That's nice. You
Talking about on podcasts to the world.
you mentioned sort of we're talking about the finances there of some of these companies that have been invested. So could we touch upon your journey through investment? Because I think you said you'd had €7 million in venture capital.
Yeah, sure. So back in 2015, we needed some money to build the first version of the app, and we took it slowly. So like on day one, we didn't know this. Well, firstly, we were doing something different. We didn't know that was going to work, and we didn't want to like sell the house and spend all the money on a complete risk. So we first built the iOS app and launched that. We went to market with just an iOS app to save money. We didn't have any Android ordering. We didn't have any web ordering or websites. And once we realized there was traction there, and to do that, we borrowed €50,000 from friends and family. And only after that was showing to work did we look for some more money from friends and family. And so over the year, we raised...
I love the way you just flippantly say, "Well, we just borrowed 50k off friends and family," and then we went back and asked for more.
we did. We went back 3 times and ended up begging for 200,000 over about, I don't remember exactly. I think over 18 months. And while we were doing that, we were out looking for investment from VC companies and angel investors. And we found it incredibly difficult to raise money. We were turned down all over the place. So we went to like incubators, and where they would give us like €7,000 and take a significant percentage to the company. And they were like, "Oh no, it's a terrible idea. Online ordering's been done for years. No one's, you're too late." So we were kind of shot down all over the place. But after meeting a lot of people, we found one angel investor who thought that it was a good idea, and he invested 250,000, which was amazing. And then in Ireland, there's an entity called Enterprise Ireland, and they help new companies get set up, and they matched that investment. So we had raised 700,000 then, as well as the 200,000 in family money and friends. So that got us through 2 years, although I don't remember exactly. And then things were going well. We wanted to keep growing as quickly as possible. So we continued talking to VC companies. We found it very, very difficult to get anywhere with them. And in the end, we found a family office who do investments, and they invested just over 2 million, I believe. And that was amazing for us. It helped us grow. And then very shortly after that, we were contacted by a leading VC in Europe, Global Founders Capital, who were very interested in the space and saw that we were growing very quickly. And like within months of raising 2 million, we raised another 4.8 million from them. And that was our most recent round.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting when I've spoke to investors, sometimes what they say is that the founders instantly want to pay themselves, quite a decent salary. So did you and your brother sort of still bootstrap, and even though you took investment, you still kept things quite tight from a paying yourself point of view?
Yes, we kept things very tight. So we didn't pay ourselves we didn't pay ourselves at all until we had raised the 500,000 from Enterprise Ireland and Growing Capital was the angel investor. So that was at least, I think, 18 months of salary. So yeah, we didn't eat much over 18 months. And then we took we took €40,000 each as a salary. So really the minimum to stay alive. because, I mean, we didn't want to take money out of the company. We wanted to invest it and grow something big. And every euro we took out meant we couldn't put it into the company. So yeah, we did take as little as possible out of it. And I think the investors are right to be wary if there's a complete startup looking to raise a big amount of money and instantly take a large salary.
Yeah, it's interesting. So thinking about that, the 4.8 and the other bits and bobs you've mentioned, how does that look in terms of going forward now over the next few years? Are you paying everything back, and then if they took equity as well?
So no, all the investment is for equity. So it's not a loan, which means we don't pay it back. The investors will get money back if there's an liquidation event, as they say. So if we IPO or we're acquired, then that is where the investors would receive money back, and us. So we're all in it together now. But we're not in a situation where we need to repay a loan.
What was it like, Conor, when you take an investment to give over equity of the company? Did you have to negotiate on how much you would pass across?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in the early days when it's more you are more selling yourself and the model and I suppose the dream of what it could do. It's a little different to the later days where you're talking very much about the metrics of how much it costs to acquire a customer and their lifetime value and things like that. So yes, I mean, when you're taking on investments, 100% there's a negotiation. And in my limited experience, I found that everything is negotiable. I think investors will come along and say, this is standard, but that's because that's what they want to have. But if you're looking to raise money from anyone, I think you should be upfront with what you want. Because I think investors don't want to be in a situation where they've invested in somebody and that company isn't happy with what's happened. So I think it's very important that anyone raising money just thinks about what they want and tell the investor. And the investor may be absolutely okay with it, or they might not be. But if you don't tell them, then you could end up in a situation where you're not happy and then they're not happy. And that's a bad deal.
Excellent. So we're talking win-win then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's any investment or business deal should be win-win. And for us, we gave away equity, but in exchange, we got money, which helps us grow more quickly, which in effect buys us time. We can reduce the amount of time it takes us to grow. Whereas if we didn't take investments, we would take us years and years longer to do what we're doing.
Great stuff. So is there a plan? I mean, there will be. Can you share your plan? Are the investors asking you to do certain things by a certain time, or is it just open to you guys, the exec team?
So no, not at all. They're not. Our investors aren't directing how we should do things. They invest in us because they believe in us and that we can, that we know what we're doing to an extent. It's on our shoulders. We have to work out what to do. Our plan is to make it as easy for takeaways to succeed online in whatever form that takes. At the moment, people like to order through websites and mobile apps. Maybe that'll change. Maybe people in future will want to use something like Alexa to order, or chatbots, or something else altogether. And our goal and ambition is to make it as easy for takeaways to succeed online, and try and save them from being at the kind of beck and call of the portals. And it's when I think about where the food industry could go if all orders start to go through portals, it doesn't look like a world I'd like to live in. I think when you think through what will happen, it seems to me that the portals will continue to take a larger and larger cut of every order because, I mean, they're public companies, they have shareholders, their goal is to make money. So they will increase their fees. And that means that the restaurants will have less and less money to spend on their raw materials. So they'll be forced to use cheaper products, which is not good for everyone ordering food. And Also, there will be, I think, much less variety in the type of restaurants and takeaways that are able to exist. Only the highest margin food will be a viable business anymore if such a large fee is being taken away. And that means that all of or a large number of this kind of smaller stores will disappear because they can't stay in business, and we'll be left with larger chains who are selling cheap food at expensive prices.
Yeah.
And there'll be less variety in the world and less owner operated stores. And I don't think that's a great place to be. So we're trying to prevent that from happening by giving these small businesses the tools that they need to compete with the biggest technology companies in the world.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, that scenario painted sounds awful. Thinking about R&D, Connor, you mentioned a bit like Alexa and stuff like. Is it a strategy for you guys to get ahead of the curve? So basically, do you need a new product? Have you got a R&D kind of path that you're following or looking into at the moment?
We're not working on anything with Alexa at the moment, because it isn't there at the moment, as far as I can tell. It's not ready for the world, but I think it'll get there. So when the time comes, certainly that's the way people expect to place orders online. That's where we'll be. That's our business. So yeah, we spend a lot of money in development on our products and on new products, but Alexa is a little bit far away.
Yeah, good stuff. Just a quick last couple of things before we go is I really enjoyed the way you've been quite transparent and open and honest. So thinking about your particular journey, Connor, and your brother as well, I guess, do you have mentors yourself?
So we don't have official mentors, but we do try and educate ourselves by meeting other people who've been through similar things.
Yeah.
So founders who have built companies and then gone on to IPO, and asked them what the journey was like, what mistakes did they make. Mostly, that's what they're the things I'd like to avoid. So we do that a lot. We've a great board, so our board members help out. So our investors, they are there to help us, and so that they give us all the advice that they can. So that is very useful. And that's another thing that I think anyone taking on investment from a VC should look at. They should know who's going to be on their board, because it plays a big part in the company. And the board members should be there to help and give as much advice and assistance as possible, I think. So that's how we're educating ourselves, by talking to people who've been through it before.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to ask you a bit of a cheesy question here, and I don't often do this because I try to avoid them. But you mentioned there about I've lined this up, haven't I? So you've mentioned there about kind of investors who are on your board, and I'd be interested to see, like, is there something that really sticks out, like a best piece of advice that you've been given across this journey?
The best piece of advice for me, I'll tell you what it was, but I think it was good for me because I didn't realize this at the time. But for other people, it might be completely obvious. And it was to do with marketing. So in the very early days, we did online ordering, and we were wondering, should we be the online ordering specialists for online ordering and go into different markets? So, for example, we could have an app which would let people pre-order or pre-book a laundrette service, and another one for some other industry, like book your hairdresser, and do all these type of ordering things. And we were thinking about that, and the alternative was, should we just work with takeaways and restaurants and do ordering for them and all the other services that they need? So restaurants need a website, they need if they have dine-in, they need a booking service, if they probably need marketing services, those type of things. So we were trying to work out, should we do loads of different industries and do online ordering, or stick with restaurants and do lots of different services for them? And I think for me, the best piece of advice was that we should absolutely stick with the single industry and takeaways. And the reason is that if you're working in a whole load of different types of business, there's no word of mouth and no virality to it. So like a takeaway will talk to the takeaway owner 2 streets away, because they do the same thing, but they're not going to talk to the chemist next door. And therefore, even if you're serving, if you have online ordering in accountants next door, the takeaway beside it isn't really going to know or care or think it applies to their business. So I think it was good advice to tell us that we should focus on one industry for that reason.
Nicely done. Thanks for sharing that. You've gone very niche. Great stuff. So, Conor, is there anything you want to leave us with? What about our listeners? Do you want to point them at anywhere? Do you want them to have a look into what you do or share some social channels or websites?
Well, absolutely, yeah. If any of your listeners know Takeaway and want to help them out and think that they could benefit from having a really nice, easy to use online ordering solution, please mention flipdish.com. Ask them to head over there and we will do our best to help them succeed.
Awesome. Where will you work, Conor? Do you work across Europe, did you say there, or UK, or?
Yeah, so our headquarters are in Dublin, and we have people on the ground in the UK and across Europe. So we have customers, so all across the UK, in Spain, in Germany, in France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and we also have a scattering across the world as well. But they're our main, Europe is our main focus.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, Conor, just got to thank you so much. That was really a great insight, really, into founding a company and going through that journey of taking investment and watching you scale up. So I wish you the best and thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, Ian. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks to Conor there. What a great journey. And in such a short space of time. One thing I took out of that is that the investors were telling Conor that, it's been done before and they didn't see much interest in it. But Conor's belief and perseverance led him to millions of euros worth of investment. I love that. And if you did too, drop me a line via the website industryangel.com, or you can find me daily posting on Twitter and LinkedIn. So until next time, I'm Ian Farrer, this is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.